control the cutter. The wood stays stationary even though it's spinning.
Yeah.
But you've got to control the cutter to do what you want with it, as opposed to a table saw. You know, the cutter's moving and you're pushing it through. Bandsaw, cutter's moving, you're pushing it through. All the other saws are all the same. Lathe is just the opposite. You got to control the cutter.
Yeah. Well, you catch it once and you learn really fast.
I live in constant fear when I'm on there, because probably the worst accident I ever had, where I tried to separate my thumb from my left hand, was at the expense of a lathe. Tool got all hung up in the bowl and it was going too fast and it crossed center and spit it out, and I tried to chop my thumb off.
Good evening, everybody. We're getting ready to go live on YouTube, and we should be starting the meeting in about 2 minutes.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
Although I did appreciate the construction lesson. That was very cool.
Hey, Terry's here. Hey, Terry.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I was here listening to you
Good.
chopping off people's arms and stuff.
He was giving us a lesson on construction.
I don't think you got in on it. He was offering to make us all furniture, so.
I will show you my thumb someday.
What's left of it?
Yeah, most of it's there. The rest of it's in a Makita skill saw somewhere.
Worst tool ever invented. That's the other one. Other than a hand tool or a drill, skill saw. Oh, baby.
Yeah. Well, and when you're smart enough to block the guard up, you know, things happen. Are we ready, City Clerk?
We sure are, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the City of Glendora Plan Commission for December 1st, 2020 at 7 p.m. For the audience tonight, I am the chair and serve as presiding officer of tonight's meeting. Before we move forward, I'd like to announce that in response to an executive order issued by Governor Newsom, the city is conducting teleconference public meetings utilizing Zoom video communication. This allows the city to continue to conduct essential business and comply with public health administration recommendations to protect the public and city employees, practice social distancing, and limit the exposure by not allowing in-person public meetings. To ensure that the public will be able to participate in public comments can be submitted as live comments during Zoom meeting and via email at publiccomment@cityofglendora.org. Because there are no public hearings on the agenda, public comments will be taken during the public comment portion of the meeting and should only be regarding the agendized item. Madam City Clerk, will you please take roll?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Kent. At this time, I will conduct an oral roll call and request that each commissioner represent or respond with a present when their name is called. Commissioner Koss.
Present.
Commissioner Matthews.
Here.
Commissioner Norwood.
Present.
Vice Chair Davis.
Present.
And Chair Kent.
Present.
All commissioners are present. And just for confirmation, Chair Kent, we do have one public hearing. I apologize. The information on your script was incorrect. There is one public hearing, and under that item, people will be giving a chance to speak on that specific item as well.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Thank you, Kathleen, for clarifying that. I was just going to jump in on it too. Thanks.
Thank you. That will take us to the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Matthews, will you lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to special items. I see no special items on our agenda tonight. That'll take us to open public comment period. We invite the members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items listed on the agenda. Announce the speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes. If you'd like to request to speak, select the raise a hand icon on your Zoom before you close the public comment period. You will then be called when your turn is up to speak. Do we have any public comments that have been received? You said we have one that's on a particular item.
Chair Kent, we did receive one item. It is associated with public hearing 1, so I will announce that at that time.
Okay. We have no others at this time. Nobody raising
No,
their
is
hand?
there anybody participating in the Zoom meeting that would like to speak? Please raise your hand in Zoom and I will call on you. Okay, I am not seeing any hands, so I think it's safe to close the public hearing and move forward.
All right, with that said, I'll close the public comment period.
Oh, thank you.
We'll move to reordering the agenda. Do I have anybody wishing to reorder the agenda? Any commissioners? Seeing none, that'll take us to the public hearings of tonight. So we will consider a resolution. The first item is consider a resolution to approve the non-conforming lot development plan review to allow the construction of four two-story multifamily units on certain property located at 334 East Lemon Avenue, Glendora, California. Project number PLN 19-0044. The applicant of the property is Bruce Doherty. That will bring us to interim assistant planner Joseph Weaver to present a staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. This item is a request for the approval of a non-conforming development plan review to allow the construction of 4 two-story multiple family residential units located at a property on 334 East Lemon Avenue. Project number is PLN 19-0044. Next, please. Pursuant to the Glendora Municipal Code, the purpose of the non-conforming lot development plan review is to, quote, provide procedures whereby a non-conforming lot that cannot be developed or improved in conformance with the provisions of this title due to the non-conforming condition of the lot, including size, dimension, or configuration, may be granted a non-conforming lot development plan review permit to allow the development or improvement of the lot. The subject property as part of this application has a non-conforming lot width of 60 feet, whereas 80 feet is required for the zone. The approval of the subject non-conforming lot development plan review will allow the demo of an existing 1,199 square foot single family residence and 400 square foot garage, the construction of two-story duplex structures with a total of 4 two-bedroom units. And as part of the non-conforming lot development plan review application, the applicant is requesting the reduction of 1 guest parking space. Therefore, the project proposes 9 total spaces, whereas 10 spaces are required per the code. Next, please. So here is a vicinity map of the subject property, which is approximately 11,240 square feet in size and located on the south side of East Lemon Avenue near the intersection of South Minnesota Avenue and East Lemon. The subject site contains an existing single-story, single-family residence, which was built in 1950. And as stated before, which is proposed to be demolished as part of this proposal. North of this project site, across Lemon Avenue, consists of existing single and multiple family developments Properties to the east and west also consists of single and multiple family residences as well. To the immediate south is the railroad and future Metro Gold Line extension. Next, please. The project has a zoning designation of multiple family residential R3. This visual simply depicts the surrounding zoning designations of the site, which predominantly consist of other multiple family zones, including R3 and R2. Next. And this is just a visual which displays the general plan land use designations of the surrounding properties, which include high density residential, as well as some medium to high density residential properties to the north across Lemon. Next. So getting into the site photos here, this is the street elevation, north elevation of the front house existing, again, to be demolished. Next. This is again a northwest elevation as taken from the sidewalk, showing the west side of the house and the existing driveway there. Next, please. This is a photo of the existing garage towards the rear of the property. Next. And this is a photo of the rear yard area, looking to the south in the empty rear yard area of the lot. Next. Just another same photo, but a little closer up of the existing tree there and the existing chain link fence. Next, please. And this photo is taken from the same spot, but facing to the north. This is the rear of the garage and the house existing. Next. This existing site plan depicts the existing site conditions of the lot, which include the single family residence and garage as shown. Additionally, the existing site plan contains a tree inventory table, which notes 5 existing trees on the site, which are all given ID numbers. All of these trees are proposed to be removed to accommodate this project. Although there is no conceptual landscape plan included in the plans, a condition of approval has been added to this project requiring that the applicant submit landscape plans which show satisfactory tree replacement and or pay an in lieu fee, which would be collected by the Public Works Department. And all of this is going to be conditioned to be completed prior to the issuance of building permits. Next, please. As shown on the proposed site plan, the proposal includes a 4-unit total multiple family development consisting of 2 separate 2-story duplex buildings. As shown, units A through D on the site plan. Units A and B, which is the front building closest to the street, are each 1,065 square feet in size. Unit C and D, which is the building located to the rear of the lot or on the site plan over on the left, are each 1,027 square feet in size. Regarding parking and access, vehicle access for the development is directly off of East Lemon Avenue, which is displayed on the right near the T intersection of East Lemon and South Minnesota, which are streets located within single and multiple family residential neighborhoods. Ingress and egress for the lot is in the form of a single 20-foot wide, the driveway approach is actually 16 feet wide, and a 20-foot wide driveway approach. Both the driveway and approach meets minimum development standards for driveway width requirements for multiple family developments that are less than 16 units, which this is. The driveway will provide access to each unit's garage space, which are shown with the cars there within the single car garages. And also will provide access to the uncovered parking stalls to the very rear of the lot. Lastly, a pedestrian sidewalk is provided, which connects the public right-of-way to each unit entrance, which facilitates pedestrian access to the site. The design of the proposed internal driveway, parking spaces, parking space backout distances, and other circulation improvements shall be required to meet the city's standards, with the exception of the reduced guest parking space as part of this application. Additionally, the LA County Fire Department has reviewed and approved the subject plans relating to their access requirements. And all on the last note, all usable outdoor open space area and garage storage areas meet the standards of the municipal code. Next, please. So these are the first and second floor plans of the front street-facing duplex structure, which are units A and B. The first floor of each unit is 458 square feet and includes a kitchen, a dining room, a bathroom, and a one-car garage. The second floor of each unit is 607 square feet and includes 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a laundry room, and an outdoor covered balcony. Next, please. This is the first and second floor plans of the rear duplex structure, which are units C and D. The first floor of each unit is 417 square feet, and the second floor of each unit is 610 square feet. Both units contain the same number of rooms and areas as units A and B, as mentioned earlier, so they're almost identical in terms of amenities and rooms. Next, please. Shown here is the elevations of units A and B, which is the street-facing duplex structure. Visually, the project consists of an architectural style described by the project designer as ranch style. The design features a gable roof form, gable entry porch elements, window shutters, wood balcony railing, exposed rafters, stone veneer siding, stucco finish, and other architectural features. Next, please. Unit C and D are shown here. Staff would like to note that this project's design progression has been challenging, and staff has reviewed and commented on many earlier versions that did not meet applicable codes or lack minimum design elements at the time. The plans are now at a point which are acceptable for Planning Commission review and consideration. However, various conditions of approval have been included within the draft resolution with the intent of further improving the project's overall visual design. Next, please. One additional item that staff requests of the Planning Commission is regarding the west side setback of unit C and D, which is the structure shown here on the elevations. Per the municipal code, multiple family zones require a minimum 5-foot setback for the first floor and a minimum 10-foot setback for the second floor, measured from the side property line. Because of this standard and the deficient lot width of the site, the rear structure consists of an awkward offset building form and overhang to accommodate this 10-foot side setback for the second floor. And this can be seen in the visual at the top, which is its current iteration as proposed. As part of this non-conforming lot development plan review request, staff asked that the commission consider granting a reduced 5-foot west side setback to the second floor of the rear duplex structure so that it would not have to be offset and it would not have to have the 5-foot overhang as proposed. This would improve its overall design appearance and potentially result in a cheaper structural design for the applicant. An example visual is included in the bottom right, which portrays what granting this reduced second floor setback of 5 feet may look like for the rear structure. It's similar to the front facing structure as visible from East Lemon Avenue. Regarding compatibility, the the adjacent 2-story apartment complex to the west, which is shown on the visual over here on the left side of your screen, appears to have an existing deficient side setback as measured from its second floors to its side property line, and you can kind of see that in the aerial image with the first and second floors of those developments. Therefore, staff feels that the approval of a 5-foot second side setback for this proposal shall not result in any design incompatibility with the adjacent existing development. The Planning Commission has the authority to make this setback reduction as part of the non-conforming lot development plan review application request. Next, please. For colors and materials, the stucco siding will be finished in Hamilton blue, which is the lighter blue color shown. By Dunn Edwards, doors and shutters will be finished in the Black River Falls color, which is the darker blue. Also by Dunn Edwards, stone veneer siding will consist of gray granite river rock by Southeast Concrete, shown on the left. And roof material will consist of asphalt shingles as shown, which is by Timberland. Next, please. As shown in this table, the project complies with all applicable development standards, with the exception of the existing lot width and the proposed number of parking. Next, please. Per the parking standards for multiple family developments, 10 parking spaces are required for this project, consisting of 8 unit spaces and 2 guest spaces. As part of the non-conforming lot development plan review, the applicant is requesting the reduction of 1 guest parking space as part of this project due to its deficient lot width. Therefore, the proposed project includes 8 unit parking spaces, which is the requirement. 4 of those spaces are located within a garage, and 4 of those spaces are uncovered. And on top of those 8 unit spaces, 1 uncovered guest space is proposed, which is also uncovered in the rear of the lot, whereas 2 guest spaces are required per the code. Next, please. Notices were mailed out to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject property on November 19th, 2020. The notice was also published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner on that same day. To date, staff has received no inquiries regarding this project. Next, please. As such, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a notice of exemption for this project pursuant to sections 15301 and 15303 of CEQA guidelines, and hereby grant a non-conforming lot development plan review to allow the construction of 4 2-story multiple family residential units at 334 East Lemon Avenue, subject to the conditions of approval. That concludes my staff report. I'm available for any questions the commission may have, and as well, I'd like to note that the property owner, Bruce Doherty, is also here, and the commission or members of the public may ask him any questions if they have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Does the commission have any questions of Mr. Weaver before we move on to the applicant?
Sure, I'll jump.
All right, Mr. Matthews.
Just curious right out of the gate. So does this development count towards our recent meeting on having to do with RENA?
I wasn't involved in that meeting. Maybe either Mark or Jeff could answer that.
So it would, this project, if it starts, we count it when the project is finalized. So it will probably count toward our arena, production in the post October 2021 cycle.
So our sixth cycle, it would qualify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it identified in our sixth cycle projections?
This was not a site, no, that was
Okay.
identified.
All right.
Too small of a site.
What's that?
It's too small of a site to identify.
Too small of a site. So
But the numbers
okay.
count.
Okay. All right. I'll save that. My follow-up question on that. So this is probably what, the fourth or fifth project on Lemon we've approved of this style?
Yeah, going back at least 15 years that I'm aware of.
So the parking issue, did we have to give did we give back on the parking on the other projects for any reason? Do you know?
I can't recall those specifics of other projects. I do know that in all of these cases, because the sites, while they're deep, the lots tend to be narrow, that they present challenging infill sites.
Yeah.
And usually to fit everything on, but I can't remember specifically what deviations from the standards may have been granted in the past.
If I can add,
Go ahead.
if I can add that the parking request was sort of at staff's nudging. Previous versions had them meeting the parking, but they would place the trash enclosure right between the units, which isn't an ideal location for a trash enclosure. And we kind of said, like, it's just one guest parking space in terms of an overall project of only 4 units.
Okay.
We felt that by its reduction wouldn't be very impactful.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think that was a brilliant call because we've obviously worked with this style of project, and we may have to give a little or get a little as the road goes down, but at least we know where we're working at. As far as the setback for the second story, was the fire department did they approve it after the proposed 5-foot setback?
The fire department approved the plans based on its current iteration, which included the 10-foot setback for the second floor. So their approval was based on that. If it were to be changed to a 5-foot setback, then it would still need fire department approval, but that would most likely come at the time of building permit plan check.
Okay, all right. So is the applicant aware that could in effect change the setback on the second floor?
Yeah, they have been aware. We presented this idea to them a few weeks ago and they seemed that they were in support of that idea of reducing the second story setback to 5 feet. Because it kind of the 10-foot setback again kind of forced the building to kind of result in that kind of Tetris shaped and they actually couldn't reduce the square footage of the units any more than they had because of minimum unit sizes. So as a result, that's kind of what the building looked like. So it seems that they are in favor of the idea of reducing that second story setback.
Okay, and I don't want to force them into that. I just want I want to know that they're aware that might be a potential, and we might have to sit on that. And I don't know what the setbacks are. I'll let the other commissioner maybe jump in if possible, because there may be enough distance between improved properties that it's not an issue. That's all my question. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions before we go to the applicant? We will come back to the commissioners for more questions after everyone's spoken.
I do have one.
I have a question too.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Ross, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't toss.
Yeah, I just actually had a couple questions. Also, one of them was regarding the parking. And thank you for mentioning about, moving the trash bin and taking up that spot. I'm kind of curious though about utilizing that as the additional parking space and just moving the trash dumpster up in this a little cut in this landscaped area up here, whether or not you'd still be able to get that additional parking space back.
Which landscape area are you referring to?
Well, I'm looking at the diagram, and it looks like right in front of the parking spaces, it looks like there's some kind of curb, and then there's a landscaped area.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm wondering, could the trash be moved into that landscaped area, and then you could still utilize this area for a parking space?
I think that would pose a problem for a couple reasons. One is that the trash enclosures wouldn't be able to be accessed if it's behind the parking stall. If cars are parked there, then they wouldn't be able to pull them out. If you're referring to the landscape areas that are in front of the stalls.
I see.
And for a second reason, that area is actually proposed to be a water retention basin for water storing purposes.
Okay, that answers that question. The other question I had was regarding tree replacement. It looked like the original plan had 5 trees, and I'm seeing on the new plans, I'm seeing 2 box trees. So what are the plans for the tree replacement for the others?
So the tree replacement is based on the size, or it's called diameter at breast height of the tree being removed. Sometimes if a tree is too small, the code doesn't require any tree replacement. It's only when it's a certain width is when tree replacement starts being replaced, either on a 1-to-1 ratio basis or a 2-to-1 basis. For this project, I believe they're only required to replant 3 trees.
Okay. And they have 2 right now, it looks like.
Again, that's not an actual conceptual landscape plan. So those details would be finalized at the time of landscape plan submittal. So those 2 trees are actually deficient in what the requirement is.
Okay, thank you. That was the only questions I had right now.
I have a question for the.
Okay. Go ahead.
Any of the staff can answer. Is there any requirements by Gold Line or Metro because of the proximity of the tracks to the rear of the property that we need approval from? Have they gone through those hoops, I'm assuming?
No extra approvals are needed.
Okay, and then I guess my second question is the developer going to provide the sound wall, or is Gold Line going to come in and redo a sound wall, or when that process begins?
I know there's something in the code regarding allowances for higher walls along the metro right of way. Mark or Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would apply to this property. They have on the plans to propose a new block wall, I believe, along that property line, which would be 6 foot high. That's the only plans for a wall along that area. Currently, it's a chain link fence, so it's an improvement from that at least. But other than that's what's proposed at the moment by the developer.
That having gone through in Arcadia when I was there, dealing with the Golden Line and the sound wall issues and the neighbors, whether they were structures that were already there or new developments, I would encourage you to at least look into what Gold Line might want to require in terms of height and sound and restrictions and things like that. I'm not sure if they're going to get involved or what the developer may be proposing is completely adequate, but I would certainly look into that and not get caught off guard or have the developer get caught off guard down the road.
Okay.
And the only other Well, it's not a question. It's more of a comment. I guess I can wait on regarding the setback as far as fire department. The fact that the building, if I'm not mistaken, it's a new structure, will be sprinklered. That's accurate. So that other 5-foot setback would, considering the setback on the west, is substantial enough that's not going to be, at least in my opinion, wouldn't be an issue for the fire department. But I can't speak for the county, so. That's all.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Are any of the parking spots required to be handicapped?
Not at this location, not for this development, no.
Okay. I noticed that now there'd be a block wall on the east side of this, west and east, as this is bordered by a 6-foot block wall.
The plans show a new 6-foot block wall to be included on the eastern portion of the lot along that property line. It seems that there's already an existing 6-foot block wall on the west side, which looks like it's to remain as part of this project.
Okay, and the reason I bring that up is I noticed that the AC condenser units are on the west side, and this ties into the setback. If you had set the second floor back the additional 5 feet, that sound is allowed to come up and waft off to the sides. Whereas now you've got a 20-foot wall next to a 6-foot wall next to the condenser units, and you basically built yourself a little echo chamber between the buildings.
Hmm.
So for I don't know, respect to the other people who live in the area, or even to the residents of that building, like I said, now you've got AC units blaring when they're on in an echo chamber. So I'm not exactly sure what you can do. You can't limit the flow of air around those things too much, but maybe there is some sort of covering over from the wall to the side of the house or something that might help deaden it some. But it's not something that I would vote against it for as a function of. How do they collect trash when you're at the end of a lot like that?
From what I remember, Mark, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the plan for that was they were going to have someone bring the dumpsters to the street on trash day, so that was that correct?
I know the Dohertys, the family has met with the Athens regarding this question on if the trash truck the big trash truck was going to come down, which I think it was ruled no, or if they were going to have one of the smaller ones zing down there, or if it was going to be hauled off. I can't recall which approach the Dohertys have decided to take. That might be a question that the applicant can answer when he speaks.
Okay, good. Yeah, because they're again almost the same situation, although not quite as frequent. With walls up and everything, you start running trash trucks down there, depending on the hour that they come in. They're coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning, down a sound hallway. It's a little annoying sometimes. So yeah, maybe
they typically use a scout truck that actually picks and takes it out to the street for pickup. So I don't think that'll be a big issue, but we'll let the owner tell us.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. I just wanted to clarify it, though. You had mentioned in lieu of fees. What is an in lieu of fee, and where does it go, and what does it do?
So to my understanding, if an applicant can't replace they can't provide for the adequate tree replacement on site per what's required in the city's urban forestry manual. If that tree replacement can't be met, then they have to pay a fee in lieu of planting the tree on site. And I believe that fee just goes to various park related improvements. Maybe I don't know if you know more about that, Mark.
I think it goes to a tree fund to plant trees.
Okay, that makes sense. Poll. Now, these are going to be rentals or condos?
To my knowledge, they're going to be rental units.
Okay. Okay, that's all I got for right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. With that said, I'm going to invite the applicant, Mr. Doherty, to address the commission. You have up to 10 minutes to address the commission on the items we've discussed, or any questions you may have, or any clarifications. Mr. Doherty, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes, I
can hear
can.
you.
Okay. Okay. With regards to the fire department, I don't think we'll have any problem having talked to them. The cantilever, I thought we might have a problem because the cantilever over, which made that 16-foot space 11 feet. But they aren't going to ever go down there. They won't put their engine down there. They work from the street. So there shouldn't be any problem moving that over as far as the fire department's concerned. It is considered 3 trees is what we do have a landscape architect that's going to do the landscaping for us, and he figured it out to 3 trees. And we had thought one of the things is with the sound in the back, I was thinking of putting the cypress along there to cut the sound out. So a row along the back fence so that it would cut the thing. If we needed to with the air conditioning, we could use heat pumps, which are from the sea or on the roof. I'd prefer not to because the other ones are more efficient and better, and you don't see them. So I would like to do that. The trash, you got the answer. The Scout, they basically have a 3/4 ton pickup that goes in the back and pulls it out for you, and you pay a fee for that. And that's what we'd planned on doing. As far as it is rentals, they will be apartments for the area. I, of course, want to get this variance, and I believe it meets the standards and goals of the city. It's a good development for the neighborhood. The neighborhood's going from single-family residence to multi-family, and this project would be good to meet the city needs, I believe. It'll give more housing to the citizens, and thanks for your consideration towards this project, and I hope you'll allow it to go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. One quick question. You've been given a copy of the conditions of approval. Do you agree to those and are planning on building according to those?
Yes, I
Should this be approved?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to public comment. We invite members of the public to address the commission on this item. And now, the speakers will have 3 minutes to speak on this item. And this is your time to speak as uninterrupted. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes total. If you'd like to request to speak, please raise your hand icon on the Zoom before you close the public comment period. We will then you will then be called when your turn is to speak. Do we have any public comments on this one, City Clerk?
And just to clarify, this is actually the opening of a public hearing as opposed to just comment.
Okay.
So we received one correspondence prior to the meeting. That correspondence has been indexed, made part of the agenda packet, and made available to both the public and the commission. At this point, I request anybody who would like to participate in the Zoom meeting to raise their hand if they'd like to give testimony during this public hearing. I'm seeing no raised hands, and I have received no additional public comments via email during the meeting. So, Chair Kent, we're ready to close.
That sounds good. Okay, Mr. Doherty, at this time, we'd normally give you a chance to rebut, but since we've had no public comment, I'm going to go past that and close the public comment hearing at this time and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioners, do we have anything else to discuss on this?
I just have one thing in terms of the air conditioning units. Heat pumps can be ground mounted unless I'm missing something.
Well, I was just thinking for the sound. You were saying it was a sound problem if they were on the ground.
Yeah,
I'm a
sorry, Mr.
visual-
Doherty, but we can't have you chime in at this point. We're past
Oh.
public comment, or
Oh,
public hearing. Just a clarification with staff, Mr. Kugel or one of the planners. I don't believe we allow roof mounted equipment in residential zones. Is that correct?
That's
No.
correct.
You're correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have to be on the ground. So
Yeah.
it's a moot point.
I would simply offer the quietest one that you can find out there.
do that.
Do we have any other commissioners with any comments, questions, motions?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Matthews. Do I have any other comments? Second,
Second the motion, Norwood.
Mr. Norwood was a second. Any other comments before we go to a vote?
And just for clarity, that motion is to just simply move staff's recommendations as shown on the screen.
Correct. As submitted, PLN 190044.
Thank you.
And setback for the second story is not in that motion, or is it?
It's part of the resolution.
It's not.
It's not.
It is not.
Okay,
Can be
so
added.
I'd like to amend my motion, if I may, to include the adjustment for the second floor setback on this, the south units in the back of the property to be 5 feet, not 10 feet.
And I will again second that.
Does that motion also include the conditions of approval for the landscaping and the other items?
I would assume that it does because that comes through a distant process with planning.
Okay.
I have a quick question of staff before we vote. Do we need anything special for that? I mean, that's a variance, correct? Do we need findings with facts or anything to support it?
It is not a variance. It's a deviation from the code that's permitted if the commission feels it appropriate as a non-conforming development plan review.
Okay. With that said, I'm going to give this back to the city clerk to take a vote.
Councilmember Koss,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Norwood,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Aye.
and Chair Kent.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. To the applicant, good luck with your project and thank you for investing in our community.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that'll move us on to consent calendar. Does anyone wish to comment on any items on the consent calendar? Or request to pull any items that have been received? And commissioners?
No.
Hearing none, can I get a motion on the consent calendar, please?
I'll move.
I'll
I got a
second.
first. I got a second by Davis. City clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Councilmember Koss,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Norwood,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Chair Kent.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, great. We'll move us on to unfinished business. Seeing none, we'll move down to new business. We have one item, which is a study session on the zoning regulation and conceptual plans related to the expansion of the Cornerstone Bible Church at 400 and 420 North Glendora Avenue, 117, 125, 127, and 131 East Whitcomb Avenue, and 415 North Vista Bonita Avenue. Project number PLN 20-0007. Applicant is BGW Architects for the Cornerstone Bible Church. I will invite the city planner, Mark, to present the staff report. Mark?
Good evening, Chair, members of the commission. Mark Carnahan, city planner. As was stated, tonight's study session will be on zoning regulations and conceptual plans relating to the expansion of the Cornerstone Bible Church. Note that zoning changes are legislative actions, which would be later reviewed by the commission and ultimately decided by the city council. Since this is a policy item question, the Director of Community Development has requested tonight's study session to serve as a preliminary review of the current version of the project to discuss and provide input regarding the potential zone change, as well as identify any site and design issues early on. Based on feedback from the commission at this study session, the church will have an early understanding of what items should be addressed prior to finalizing their plans. This study session also offers the public, and specifically the property owners within 500 feet of the site who were notified of tonight's meeting, an early opportunity to see and comment in advance of the formal project public hearing, which would be in the future. Lastly, remember that this is a study session. No formal action or decisions will be made as the commission's review and discussion is to provide commentary and guidance to the applicant and staff. Next slide. Next slide. Sorry, skip slide. Sorry. Cornerstone Bible Church is a local nonprofit religious institution that has been a part of the Glendora community since the 1930s, and which has a desire to expand and make improvements to the properties. The church currently owns the existing stone church on the corner, as well as the 5 residential homes to the east. They also own the house between the Women's Club and the church along Glendora Avenue. The existing church building itself is approximately 6,500 square feet in size and is 2 stories in height, 34 feet to be specific. And it also includes a 2,000 foot sanctuary space with offices on the ground floor and a conference room. With offices on the ground floor as well as offices and conference rooms on the 2nd floor, with a nursery and storage area in its basement. You can see it right now. It is a picture of the interior of the space here. Next slide. So just a kind of a boring part, but just for context, the legislative history of the site, kind of you could date kind of to the 90s, where you can kind of see the church has slowly started to expand. In 91, they were approved approval for 2 temporary trailers for classroom and nursery use. In 96, a CUP variance and time extension were granted, which allowed the conversion of the house at 420 North Glendora Avenue into office space, as well as a conference room and a time extension on the trailers. The variance also allowed for the deviation in lot size, setbacks, and parking for the church use at that converted house location, which is north of the alley. During the 90s and early 2000s, the congregation experienced a period of growth, according to the church. The church considered relocating to a larger property, but decided to remain at the current location. The church then began purchasing nearby and adjacent properties with the intention of one day expanding the church campus. And since that time, I've been told that the congregation still continues to grow. In 2016, the church submitted a concept review for the expansion project, at which point city staff provided them some comments. Fast forward to 2018, the formal part of the project was done, and the Planning Commission considered the formal application regarding the expansion project, which was a request for a zone change, a consolidation of the land parcels, demolition of 5 single-family homes, and construction of a new church building and a large parking lot. At that time, several comments were provided from the public, and the Planning Commission at the meeting also had some. The meeting was concluded with the continuation of the item. No action was taken. It was recommended that the church hold a town meeting with their neighbors to further discuss the project, and also suggested an optional site design that could maybe retain the house on the corner of Vista Bonita and Whitcomb Avenue. Since 2018, the church has met with several neighbors, from what our understanding. They have also made, I can attest, they've made several major site plan changes, which you'll see tonight, which they'd like to present to the commission tonight at the study session, as well as the public. Next slide. So just for context, the 2018 proposal, this is what you would have seen from Glendora Avenue. Obviously, the old church is on the right. The new church was going to be built right next to it, and it was going to be right along the street on Glendora, and it's obviously on the left. Next slide. And this was the site plan that was presented in 2018. The bottom left corner is the existing older church. The newer building was obviously on the darker gray part right north of it, and then they proposed a large parking lot to its right, which you'll see was currently houses. Many of the neighbors, some of the opposition by the neighbors really did not really look. They didn't really like the fact that the parking lot was going to be kind of creeping into their and into the residential neighborhood. That was the big feel that was expressed at that meeting. Next slide. So now with that said, here's a map that shows the project site. It's approximately 1.45 acres in size. It includes multiple parcels, all of which again are owned by the church. The site area is bound by 420 North Glendora to the north and the public alley, Whitcomb Avenue to the south, Glendora to the west, and Vista Bonita to the east. The site is currently developed with existing church-related structures, as well as 5 existing single-family homes and related accessory buildings. The existing sanctuary church, which again was built in the 1930s, has continuously been a place of worship in the town since then, and it has become a recognizable building in the community. Adjacent to the site to the south is also a real estate office. To the east is our single-family homes. To the north is the Women's Club and also single-family homes. And again, to the west is also more residential homes. Next slide. So just to give you a context of the number of properties involved here, I just kind of superimposed the addresses of the homes and the church together, so you kind of have a context. If that comes up tonight, we can refer to them by their actual address. Next slide. And this is just an oblique view to kind of get a context. I think we all know that the corner landmark there is the church for reference. Next slide. And again, these are the properties that we're talking about that could come up tonight. Next slide. So just a quick overview of each of the properties. Obviously, this is the church we all know on the corner that is going to be preserved in place as part of the plan. Next slide. These are the temporary trailers that I spoke of. They're originally kind of surfaced in the 90s. They would be removed. They're visible from Glendora Avenue currently. Next slide. This is the current parking lot, which would be demolished and as part of the plan relocated. Next slide. This is the north alley, which has a lot of new parking as well as access points to it. You can kind of see how its conditions are. Next slide. This is the 415 North Glendora. This is the one converted house. Next slide. This is 117 Whitcomb. This would be one of the properties to be demolished. Next slide. 125 Whitcomb, another house to be demolished. Next slide. 131 East Whitcomb. This is the corner house on the opposing corner. This would be the one that was originally proposed to be demolished, that the commission suggested that be looked at to see if it could be retained. You'll see examples of how it is going to be maintained and incorporated within the project site. So yes, this one is now going to be retained as part of the project. Next slide. This is 415 Vista Bonita. This house would be demolished. Next slide. So here's a map showing the general plan land use designations. All the project site parcels have a designation of medium high density residential, except for 420 North Glendora, which is a low medium density residential, which is all on the north side of the alley. Next slide. This is the zoning map showing its designations. Again, all of the sites are zoned residential multiple family R2, except for the one on the north side there that has a single family R1 zoning. Next slide. So let's get on to the project details. So the first part of the project detail is a request for a zone change of all the properties to a planned redevelopment zoning. Oops, something happened when I handed off the parcel. Imagine all this being purple. Sorry, something slid in the proposal there. It would all be one zoning and be purple. So currently the site, as mentioned before, has several parcels. All of them have residential type zonings and R2s or R1s. With the anticipated merger of the land parcels into one, its designation does not have to be residential, and it could be site specific if it's felt appropriate. Next slide. Actually, can you go back a slide? I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Thank you. As currently designed, the proposal would not meet several of the existing required development standards. However, the project could be permitted under the PR zoning. As currently proposed, the project is deficient in meeting a couple of development standards. Specifically, the new sanctuary church is proposed to be located 10 feet from the rear property line along the north, along the alley, where requirements would be 25. The new residential style storage structure, which I'll talk about on Vista Bonita, has a 15-foot setback where 25 is required. The required parking encroaches into the 25-foot setback areas on Whitcomb and North Vista Bonita, where 10 feet is proposed. And finally, the redesigned project has the relocated playground area located 10 feet from the property line, but 25 feet is required. So note that pursuant to the Glendora Municipal Code, the purpose of a planned redevelopment zone is to provide for development on a comprehensive basis by using site-specific planning techniques not permitted through the literal application of zoning and subdivision regulations, and to produce an environment of stable, desirable character in harmony with the existing and potential development of the surrounding area, end quote. That's the code. So as such, by allowing a zone change to a PR, the setback items are not considered reductions as the site is being granted a site-specific land use designation to establish development standards that are uniquely appropriate for the location and its use. The written text for the proposed zoning would be included as part of the future development with the Planning Commission's review and City Council's approval. So that being said, you're basically doing custom zoning for what the site needs for itself. We're starting to see a few more of these. We did that one. We do a couple of residential projects like this as well. You might see a lot more of this as we're starting to do infill type projects. This is what as a planning tool that is being looked at this location, if the commission believes concurs this is an appropriate use of it. Next slide. So the second part of the proposal would be the merger of all the project sites. So there are 8 separate lots, again, that total 1.45 acres. All of the sites would be merged except for the parcel that's on the north side of the alley. The merger would be done with the parcel map, which is the appropriate action under the Subdivision Map Act. And pursuant to the Glendora Code, the merger would bring the site into compliance. We have a standard of 1 acre minimum for churches, and so this would be 1.45. Next slide. So the next 2 actions are, one would be the entitlement action. The church has a current conditional use permit that has several conditions, one of which limits the capacity to 220 people. So one of the items would be to increase the capacity to the requested 310 people based on the new church's construction. And the second, the last item there would be CEQA analysis. Future analysis would have to be done once the project details are finalized here. And we would have to, we have already consulted with an environmental consultant who was prepared to start that work. And it would take some time to prepare. It will be a few months before we ever be able to come back to the commission. But it would analyze all the demolition actions for the homes, as well as any of the environmental CEQA impacts relating to the construction. Next slide. So the actual construction part of the project is being proposed in 2 phases. The first would be to demolish and remove 4 of the existing homes and all the accessory buildings to create an on-site parking lot area. They would leave the house on the corner of Vista Bonita and Whitcomb, and to retain the residential character of the neighborhood. Additionally, a single-story storage building would be constructed to the north of the existing corner house on Vista Bonita, and it would be designed to look like a residential house, so that it can also further retain that residential feel along the street. And I'll show you some examples of that now. Next slide. So this is just showing the existing site plan. Again, the corners, the house to be saved, and the first phase, the eastern half of the site would be demolished, essentially. Next slide. In its place would be the new parking lot, which sort of you can see there, the large parking lot, as well as retention of the corner house on the corner, and the construction of that single-story building, which would be a storage building, but it would look like a house from the street, as well as a small little parking lot between them and some parking along on the alley. Next slide. This is the new storage building that would be built all along the street. You can see the front porch to give it an illusion like it's a house along the street to keep that residential neighborhood feel. And for all intents and purposes, it would look like a small little house. And until you looked at the floor plan and you see it's just one big storage room. Next slide. This is what the new version of the Vista Bonita streetscape would look like. The left house is the existing corner house that's being retained. That storage building is the one up to the right, and that's what you'd see along the street now. This is a significant change from the last proposal. The last proposal, this would have been just a straight parking lot from one corner to the next. There was no structures to screen it. This essentially keeps that residential kind of block of retained. Next slide. This is just showing conceptually how landscaping could be put into around all the developments. And we'll go into specifics. I mean, they will have existing trees to mitigate and replace as well. I'm sure they'll be able to replace all of them on site. And they have lots of opportunities to do so. Next slide. So the second phase of the project would be the development of the northern and eastern parts of the church. I'm sorry, the north and the kind of the eastern part of the church building. This will include the removal of the temporary modular structures, relocation and construction of a new children's play area, addition of most of the parking and landscaping installations, and finally construction of the new church. Next slide. So the new church building would total about 18,700 square feet. It does include a subterranean basement within that square footage. And it would be built basically to the northeast of the existing church. The design of the new building would be complementary to the buildings and the neighborhood with materials and design. It would help to kind of modernize the look of the church campus a bit. It is more of a modern style, but it does have those same lines and some of the materials as some of the existing structures. Excuse me. The church building has, again, the same color palette and some of the same materials. The building would be 1 story in height, and it would be set back from the streets significantly, which is a big change from the last proposal. The last proposal, again, was having that building fronting Glendora. This, in a sense, puts it in the back. And so you'll see in some visuals here that the church is basically retains its presence as the landmark on the corner. And it's the new church is basically kind of secondary in terms of the architectural world on the site. New landscaping and other elements would also be added and would tie everything together as part of this second phase. Next slide. Here's some elevations. The architectural style, again, is kind of a modern craftsman-y, I would call it. It's really designed to kind of give it a modern appearance, but also blending in with the old. It includes partial pitched roofs, asphalt single roofing. It tries to mimic some of the same pitches of the existing buildings. The new church building predominantly exhibits precast stone veneer accents along each elevation to relate to the stone facade of the existing church. Lastly, the new church provides a focal connection to the existing church via a new gathering area and courtyard, which I'll show you on later in some more of the site plans. Next slide. Here's another slide just kind of showing kind of the exterior. I know it's hard to see flat black and white images here, so let me show you some other ones here in a second. Next slide. This is just the floor plan. Again, it's a ground level, 1-story structure. It has a seating area, a foyer, prayer room, and kitchen and maintenance storage areas on its first floor. The basement level includes classrooms, meetings, nursery rooms, offices, and other uses. The applicant states that the subterranean basement level will be used primarily as a space for children to congregate during the primary church service hours. And as described, that basically the children are received and instructions are given basically to the children in the lower level, while the adults attend the mass in the sanctuary above. In addition to the regular hours, some of the classrooms and things in the basement will be used by ministry groups and other uses that I'm sure the church will have a need for. Next slide. So I'm just going to show you next here some visuals to help kind of explain things a little bit better. So with that change of location, so now this is what you'd see from Whitcomb now on this proposal. You can kind of see the church now, even on this street front, isn't very dominating. It's pushed back, and it creates this kind of courtyard effect between the buildings along the street. The parking lot does extend to Whitcomb. The Whitcomb would be the main access to the major parking lot area. And again, that corner house is retained as suggested by the Planning Commission in 2018. It kind of is a kind of a bookend for the development now. Next slide. And this is the Glendora view again. Basically, you can kind of see the new church isn't dominating like it was. It's really pushed back, and that play area now is in the front. Next slide. Just for comparison, again, this was the 2018 versus 2020 version. You can really see that there's a very stark difference. The corner church is retained now as its historic landmark status, I would argue, with the new building pushed farther back there. Next slide. Again, this would be like the final version of everything with the landscaping, kind of everything in place. Again, this is just conceptual to kind of show how things could lay out. And it kind of basically shows now how the parking is kind of broken up. Instead of having one large parking lot, you now have kind of a series of small parking areas, the same number of parking spaces, mind you, but they're kind of scattered around. Next slide. So on parking itself, you can kind of see how I highlighted where they all are. So instead of having 50 spaces in one giant parking lot like before, by keeping the buildings to keep the residential feel, we kind of throw the parking in different places to meet that parking requirement. But they took full effect of the public alley to make this work. You can kind of see how they all lay out here. Just to keep in mind, 50 spaces are the number that was required for this. It's based on our local Glendora code has a parking requirement that is based on the seating in the church. And so based on the seating, I don't want to bore you with the math, but it would dictate 50 spaces. Next slide. And this is just a side-by-side comparison of the 2018 versus 2020 version. You can again kind of see that large parking area that really dominated the neighborhood, which is where I think some of the concerns were coming from, where they didn't want their neighborhood torn down for a parking lot. And I think that this is a good attempt by the church to keep that residential feel by keeping that corner house and adding this new one to kind of give that separation and kind of keep that same parking and just throwing it around different locations and pushing that church back. I think they're all good efforts by the church. It took a little while longer than I think they probably imagined to get to this point. And again, this meeting is not for decision. It's just another baby step to get them to the public and get them to kind of making sure this is something that we're on the right front to do. And we're really excited to hear where the commission feels about it. Again, tonight is just a study session. We're just asking for comments and suggestions with a focus on the zone change, as well as any design related items primarily. Next slide. So while staff commends the applicant for the very large measures site plan wise to get this project to where it is, I think there could be some further tweaking of it to make it a little bit better as it moves forward in the process. And we laid out a couple in the staff report. I'll highlight three real quickly here. One is I think that while we agree that I think that setback along the north might be able to be narrowed down based on using a zoning technique. But it could benefit by moving that sanctuary building a little bit further south, just to enable to get some landscaping screening, like cypress trees or whatnot. That's enough to kind of screen that building a little bit. Another one would be making the storage units front porch just a little bit more authentic looking, and it's pretty narrow on the plans. It's only like 3 feet, I think, wide. Which isn't very well proportionate to a house on that neighborhood. So we're requesting to make that porch look more appropriate. And then finally, I think the one is adding some sort of a screen fence or driveway to screen that parking area along Vista Bonita Avenue to further, one, obviously to screen the parking lot itself, but also it would give an illusion like that's a corner house for a residential neighborhood. You wouldn't see the parking at all by having a wood fence with a driveway gate. Those are just our additional suggestions. We're welcoming any additional ones you have or the public. Next slide. So finally, again, this is a study session. We're really just asking you for comments on the zoning itself and the design. And that is our focus. We just would want you to conclude with a receive and file action. And again, helping us wherever you can and with regards to direction. With that, I think the applicant or their architect might be available and wants to have a few additional points raised. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. I guess there's a question, City Attorney. Is this something we can open a public hearing to let the applicant speak?
You don't have to open a public hearing for this item. This is not a public hearing item. You may ask questions of the applicant, but all other comments were taken at the beginning of the meeting for non-hearing items, either on or off the agenda.
Okay. Do we have the ability to give them a few minutes to speak if we want?
Yes, you can even open up the public comment again if you'd like.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to do that because I hear from Mark that the applicant would like to speak a moment. So I'm going to open up public comment to the applicant if the applicant's available.
Can I get the name of the applicant?
You see him in the room, Mark?
Bob, are you or anybody from the church going to speak?
Bob Stebbing?
Bruce has his hand up. Is that one of the applicants?
I think that's the architect.
Okay.
No, that's what a member of the church, I think.
No, so
Open up Bruce or Bob, please.
a request has been sent to Bob.
It appears he's on mute.
Bob, I'm sending you a request to unmute.
Yes,
You're
there we
on
go. It worked.
Perfect.
Yes, we weren't planning any comments unless there were questions of us or something that need to be clarified.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Pastor Bruce has a comment to make. Our architect is here. Ned Wright is here if there's any technical questions.
Okay, just wanted to give you the opportunity. Pastor Bruce, do you have something to say? You got his hand up, it looks like.
Okay.
Yes, I just want to make a brief comment. First, I want to thank the Planning Commission. Back in 2018, their recommendation was well received, and the opportunity for us to meet with the neighbors has been a benefit at many levels. Second thing I wanted to say was just publicly thank our neighbors, especially those along the Vista Bonita corridor. What you see actually is representative of approximately 8 other neighbors that met with us persistently for 18 months and going back and forth with the architects. And one of the things I'm really grateful for is the ultimate idea and the conception was their contribution, their ideas of what they thought would be aesthetically pleasing. And for me personally, as a senior pastor, I couldn't be more happier with their recommendations, their patience, their kindness, and grace to us. So thank you for the opportunity to mention that.
Right, thank you.
And
Okay,
Kathleen, since public comment was opened, I just want to confirm for the record, there are no other raised hands or submissions to speak.
Correct. At this
Thank
point, Linda, hold on one second. We do have 1 second. Linda, I'm to send you a request to unmute your mic.
Hi there. It's Ron, but Linda's husband. She's allowing me to speak. We are directly across. We're the ones that are going to be affected by the house, the little house. We're right across that, and just to let you know that the church and the neighbors have worked really hard on this. There was give and take, and I personally think we did a great job. I like the idea of the house with the larger porch, and I like the idea of the gate because that'll even be better for us. So I just want to let you know that, Pastor Bruce and everybody from the church and the neighbors, we worked really hard. It took us a long time, and there was some hurt feelings, I think, and I think there were some ruffled feathers, but I think everybody knew we wanted the church to stay. We wanted it to work out for everybody, and I think it did. So, Pastor Bruce, thank you.
right, thank you. Kathleen, it looks like there's 2 more maybe.
Ned is the applicant.
Okay,
So Ned, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a few here. First, Mark, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was really direct, helpful, made a lot of sense. Thank you for pointing back to the 2018 submission and the differences between now and then. I just thought that was really well presented. The one thing I did want to comment on in the couple of suggestions that you made, I think they make a lot of sense. Just the one I wanted to comment on was as far as moving the building further south to allow some planting between the parking. Allowing planting between the parking would be really helpful and great. I think from the church's perspective, just the difficulty that creates is that's going to be a main thoroughfare to their church. And so the more we shrink that down, the more that's going to be a pinch point. Obviously, there needs to be give and take, but I did want to mention that. And that's all that I have.
great, thank you. You see any more, Kathleen, or are there any more out there?
Nope, I think we are good.
All right, then I will close public comment, bring it back to the commission for comments. Who would like to start?
I'll start.
All right,
Since the, I don't want to say it's a bone of contention, but the moving the sanctuary for some trees or shrubbery or something, I'm not so sure that's really necessary if you incorporated some green building techniques. There are some vine walls and some greenery that you can put on the sides of buildings that would probably give the same, if not better, appearance. It wouldn't set anything back, but it certainly would serve the green appearance, at least on the north side there. I think that's where we're talking about. So that's just kind of a suggestion. The alley to the north, and then the entrance off of Vista Bonita, I see a couple of arrows, and it looks like the flow wants to be east to west. Are those going to be labeled as such, so that as you come into the facilities, you come in off of Vista Bonita in an east to west direction, and you wouldn't be exiting that way, because at least it's onesies and twosies coming in that way at staggered times, whereas once the services are over, if everybody's allowed to exit onto the residential Vista Bonita, that could be a little upsetting to neighbors. So I would recommend that those be labeled as not necessarily one way, but suggested east to west only from a traffic flow standpoint. I'm assuming none of those homes that are being demolished have any type of historical or protected status. Okay.
Staff.
And then for the sanctuary, would that be, is it considered a commercial building?
No, churches are allowed to go taller. They're allowed 35, I think.
And the reason I'm asking that, and I understand, sanctuaries, just their prominence dictates that they be bigger and grander. But it is a residential area as well. That's the only reason I bring it up. Not that you could maintain 26, but I didn't see the height on the plans.
Yeah, churches, just for clarification, other structures in residential zones like this may only be 25 feet tall. However, churches are allowed to be 35 feet tall in residential zones.
Okay. That's all I have. I think from 2018 to present day, it's a world of difference. And I agree. My hat's off to the Planning Commission in 2018 that and the neighbors who came up with some of these suggestions to work through this. Well done.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners?
I do actually. First of all, I want to say, I think I was not on the Planning Commission in 2018, but it looks like this, you really incorporated the suggestions that they gave you. I think the plan, the difference between that plan and this plan is huge. It really does a great job, I think, of balancing the needs of expanding the church with, keeping Glendora and our character and our charm. And so I think it's a great balance. I did have a little bit of concern about the greenery. I understand that planting trees takes away from parking spaces and those kinds of things. But I liked Commissioner Davis's suggestion of maybe some vines on the buildings. And I would like to see when it comes before us to have some type of landscaping plan, so we'll know exactly what's the greenery in that. I do really like the idea of expanding the porch on the storage building. I agree that from the shots that we saw, it looked like the porch was quite small. And I think expanding it will kind of, make it look more like the surrounding neighborhood. So I think those are the suggestions that I had. Otherwise, I can tell that you spent a long time really redesigning it and making it, taking into account the needs of the neighborhood. And I definitely appreciate that.
All right, great. Anyone else?
Sure, I'll jump in. First of all, I want to applaud everybody that was involved in moving this forward. I'm sure it resulted in a moment of fearing much peril, but it appears that it was successful from both opponents in this, and so I applaud that process, and I think you did a great job. I'm just going to make comments. I'm not going to ask questions unless somebody wants to jump on it. But in that the original church structure was built in the 1930s, I'm wondering if by chance it has some cultural value. It's culturally valuable to our community architecturally in some fashion, and if there might be the opportunity to mimic or recreate a similar architectural look to the new church structure in some fashion, either via veneers, facades, roof angles, and that type of thing, possibly. Not sure what the existing church is going to be used for going forward from here. Might be curious on that part. As far as the setback for the alleyway, if you drive around in our city, I don't believe that we have a setback for many of the structures that exist on alleyways, and I'd feel compelled to offer the same right to this structure, that it's not required to be moved. Porch on the storage unit, if it requires if it meets the setback from Vista Bonita as required and from the alleyway, if it requires moving the footprint or lessens the size of that structure, I'm not sure that requiring that the porch be enlarged for some purpose is that important. And lastly, I agree that the 5-foot fence along Vista Bonita would probably be beneficial. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Anybody else? I'd just like to say this project's come a long way since 2018. I was there when that was brought up, and there was some lot of neighborhood interaction. It appears that many of those issues have been resolved, and for the betterment of the project, and quite frankly, for our downtown district with the churches that we have there, I think it's a great project. And look forward to moving forward and having a final swipe at this probably sometime after the first of the year. Anybody
I'm sorry,
else?
I was on mute. I've been trying to talk.
Okay, Mr. Norwood.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I would have not have voted for the project in 2018 as it stood with the neighbors' complaints and looking at the parking lot and all that. So I do commend the neighbors and the church and working together and heeding the recommendations of the commission at that point. And again, my only comments are really the parking as far as egress and ingress. I was a little confused on, was there an exit on Vista Bonita? Was it an entry only? Did they exit just on Whitcomb and then the alleys? But as far as the setback with the sanctuary on the alley, I agree with Commissioner Matthews that I think I don't think that needs to be moved, but I do think we could probably have a better idea what it looks like once we get a landscape conceptual visual of it. So that's really all I have at this point.
All right. With that said, I would, let's see, we need to receive and file this with staff, correct?
Correct. So if we could have a motion to receive and file the report.
Do I have a motion to receive and file?
I will make that motion.
And can we have a second?
I'll second.
Matthews? Second?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Koss, a second by Commissioner Matthews. I'll conduct a roll call vote. Commissioner Koss?
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews?
Yes.
Commissioner Norwood?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
And Chair Kent?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to move us on to commission and staff items. Does staff have any items?
Just that this is our last meeting of 2020. I wish everybody happy holidays and wishing for a better 2021.
I second that.
I third that.
Any other staff members? Hearing none. Any commissioners have any comments?
No.
Happy holidays to everybody. Have a good one.
Betty, have a good
holidays.
Stay safe. You know, next year's got to be better. So
Fingers crossed.
Keep your fingers crossed. This is our last meeting, so I do want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and also remind everyone that the pandemic has created havoc for all of us, but most particularly for our small businesses in downtown Glendora and throughout the city. When we go out to shop, let's remember those mom and pop shops. Those are our neighbors. They need our help right now. You can't sit down and eat dinner there, but you can take it home. They really need our help now, guys. I got a lot of friends down there that are suffering. So help out where you can, and everyone have a Merry Christmas. With that said, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.